In this lesson, we'll learn about methods of aligning and distributing objects inside Illustrator. Alright, now in this lesson I'm actually going to be using the Align panel. Now if you don't have that open currently, you can come up and find that under your Window drop-down menu and Align. Now Illustrator, because it's a precision drawing program, we actually need to be able to accurately position objects in relation to other objects all around our document. Now, we need to be able to control that with precision, and Illustrator includes some really great tools for allowing us to both align and distribute objects inside our documents, and those are all going to be located here inside the Align panel. Now, I want to just point out to you really fast that if I go ahead and just select one of these objects on my artboard here, look up here in the Control panel. We also have a link to the Align panel here, so you can get to that either way. It's the exact same panel. So let's just go ahead and click off that object here now. Now let's just for a moment take a glance at the Align panel and sort of look at how this is set up. Now if we look here at the top of the panel, we have our first row is for aligning objects. Now these first three controls right here are for horizontally aligning objects. We have left, center, and right align. Now over here we have vertically aligning object controls, again using the top, center, and bottom. So the next row is going to be for distributing objects. On this row, it's going to start with vertical distribution. So we can vertically distribute these objects to the top, center, or bottom, or we can horizontally distribute these objects to the left, center, and right. Now we're going to talk about some of these controls down here in just a moment, but let's talk about this control right here. Now, before we begin aligning and distributing objects, we need to understand that there's some different options for doing this. We need to know what we're aligning these objects relative to. So right now, if we go ahead and click on this little arrow in this Align To field, we can see that we're aligning to selection. I want to go ahead and talk about Align to Artboard first. Now, if we look over here at our artboard, we've got our logo here, and it's sort of off-center to the left, and we've got this line of text here. It's sort of off-center to the right, and maybe we want to align these to where they're perfectly in the center of our artboard. So that's why I've gone ahead and selected Align to Artboard here. So I tell you what, let's just go ahead and drag a marquee selection around both of these two objects here, and let's begin using some of these alignment options. Let's go ahead and look at the horizontal alignment options here first. Now again, we have left, center, and right. If we wanted those on the left side, we could align those to the left side of our artboard here, just like so, or we could align them to the right side. But we actually want these aligned to the center. Now I'm going to go ahead and click that center button here, and you can see that according to our artboard, these have been perfectly aligned. Now I'm just going to undo those changes here just for a moment to where we get back to where they were originally off-centered here. Now a really easy way to remember how the alignment controls work is the horizontal alignment controls are only going to move your objects horizontally. Now the vertical alignment controls are only going to move your objects vertically here. So if we wanted to align these two objects vertically, let's go ahead and align them vertically to the top of our artboard. If we do that here, it's going to move both of these two objects up to the very top edge. I don't indeed want to do that, so let's go ahead and undo that here. And let's talk for a moment about aligning to a selection instead of aligning to an artboard. So I'm going to go ahead and select Align to Selection right here. And now what this option is going to do is it's going to look only at the two objects we have selected here. And if we want to align these to the horizontal center, it's going to figure out where the average center is, and it's going to align both of these objects to that point. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's align these to the horizontal center. And you can see here that the two objects are perfectly centered over one another. They're not perfectly centered on our artboard, but keep in mind that we're only looking at the selection at this point. Now, before we move on to distributing objects, I'm going to go ahead and align these back to the artboard so we can get them centered up here. And let's align them to the horizontal center of our artboard, and maybe I just want to move these up just a little bit here. Alright, so that'll work. So let's go ahead and talk about distributing objects. I'm going to go ahead and move down here, and we're going to use these trees as an example so we can select multiple objects. Now remember, we created a custom brush stroke for these trees, so these are really just paths. Let me just go ahead and hold down Shift so I can select each one of those trees here. Alright, now keep in mind, again, with distributing objects, we have the same options. We can align these to the selection or the artboard. So if we wanted to distribute these along our artboard, let's just say vertically towards the top, we can just hit this button here, and you can see here how those have been distributed based on the vertical top of our artboard. So let's go ahead and undo that here. I'm going to go ahead and just change this to align to selection. Now, by doing that, let's just say that we wanted to distribute these trees horizontally based on the center. So let me click on this button here, and you can see that horizontally they've been distributed here along the center. Now there's one other method we haven't talked about for aligning objects here. So let me just undo that to where we have our trees in their original position. Alright, now if we come back up to the Align To option here, there's this Align to Key Object. Now this is going to allow us to specify one object within our selected objects as a key object. So let me just go ahead and show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on these and select them again here. So let me just hold down Shift and select each one of those trees to where I've got them all selected. Now with them all selected, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click again on one of these objects. So let's just say we want to select this tree right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and notice what happened. This one has changed and it's a much thicker blue line, blue selection for that tree. So we have specified that tree as our key object. Now we can align and distribute all the other objects in this selection based on this one object. So if we wanted to vertically align them according to the center of that object, we can do just that. And you can see here they've all moved vertically to where the center is all along the same axis here. So pretty cool, specifying a key object or a key object within your selection. Let's go ahead and undo that here. Now, up until now, we've been really working with specific objects and aligning and distributing those objects. But you know what? These align and distribute controls don't just work with objects. They actually will work with specific anchor points as well. So I tell you what, let me come over and select a color here. Let's go ahead and just use our eyedropper tool on the color bar here and select a nice blue. And let's just draw in a star here. Okay, so we've got a little star. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and grab our direct selection arrow with the keyboard shortcut A, and let's go ahead and select some of these anchor points. Let's go ahead and just start with this one and hold down Shift, and we're going to select some of these anchor points in this star. I've got 5 of them selected now. So we can actually choose anchor points and align to those as well. Now notice here that the Align To options changed. Now it's by default switched to Align to Key Anchor. Now you might notice that I haven't specified a key anchor, or at least I haven't specified it in the same way as we just did with the objects. That's because the last anchor point you select is actually going to be your key anchor. So at this point we have 5 anchor points selected. We can go ahead and start aligning them and distributing them however we want to. We'll just come in here and hit a couple of these buttons and just sort of see what they do. You can see here that we can really start changing the shape of an object based on these transformations we're making to just a select few of the anchor points. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that here now. And I want to switch over and talk to you again here about objects and distributing and aligning these objects. Let's talk about doing it by a specific amount of distance. So let's go ahead and select these trees down here again. Just go ahead and use my marquee selection to drag around those. Now let's say we want to specify a certain distance between these objects to align and distribute them based on. Now I'm going to come up here and choose my Align To Key Object option here, and notice that this little field here for distribute spacing comes into play. Now right now I've got 0.5 inches input into there, and you know that's fine with me. So let's go ahead and come in here and align and distribute these based on this ½ entry. I'm going to go ahead and horizontally distribute these based on the center. So we'll go ahead and just hit that button here. Well, I tell you what, it looks like we have a key object selected. Let me go ahead and undo that here. And let's go ahead and select a key object. Let's go ahead and pick that same middle tree again here. And then we'll horizontally distribute those again. Now you can see here that in doing that, we've added a 1/2 inch between each one of these paths. Now remember, these are brush strokes applied to a path, so it's using the path itself to measure that 1/2 inch. Now I want to go ahead and come up here and show you one last option. Let's come to the options menu for our alignment panel, and there's this use preview bounds option here. Now what this is going to do is it's going to allow the spacing to be calculated not necessarily based on the path, but based on the brushstroke preview. So it's going to take into account this brushstroke. Tell you what, let's go ahead and horizontally distribute these again based on that 0.5 increment. So let's go ahead and select key object. Let's select this tree right here, and let's go ahead and hit this horizontal distribute button right here. You can see now we've added a 1/2 inch between each of these trees, but it's measuring it from the tip of the brushstroke to the tip of the brushstroke, not from path to path. So that's going to give you a little more control over how the distribution is handled, allowing you to specify whatever amount you want to. Alright, so in this lesson we've taken a look at Illustrator's align and distribute options, and we've applied those to some artwork here in this document. In the next lesson we're going to continue on and talk about transforming artwork within our document.